absolutely delighted to see you here, and I love it when you show up. Dementia, while devastating, is also very interesting. I get so excited when I hear that you're using the tips and techniques and that they're working for you. I absolutely love hearing from so many of you how your relationships are getting better and stronger because you're opening your mind and trying new things. I am so proud of you. It's not easy to change the way you do things. I am so proud that you're committed to improving your relationship and truly making the caregiver experience easier for you and the person or people that you're caring for. I'm Debra, and if you're new, we all welcome you. This can be a lonely path, but here we are all friends, and we would all love for you to subscribe and grow and thrive with us. So hit the subscribe button to belong to our dementia community. The topic for today is going to be about early onset dementia, or EOD. For my followers in the UK and Europe, early onset is commonly called young onset or working life dementia. Complications with younger early onset dementia has a great impact on families. Younger people are more likely to still be working when diagnosed. They may not have built up a nest egg to rely on after they can no longer work. They may not have health insurance, or the spouse will have to continue to work to maintain the health insurance benefits. But then they're not able to stay home to be the primary caregiver. Young people very often have many financial obligations like a mortgage on the house, or they might have younger or even very young children to take care of. Coping with the diagnosis of early onset dementia is extremely devastating. It brings on a lot of challenges that normally wouldn't have come up until many years in the future. Dementia is a progressive and terminal illness. This is a time of uncertainty and grief. I would recommend getting some counseling to help navigate through this tumultuous time. It's not uncommon to suffer from severe depression and anxiety. Join support groups, get educated as much as you can. Look into my courses at answersaboutalz.org, and I have some free downloads for you there as well. You can also subscribe to this channel, which I, of course, highly recommend, because you're going to need all the resources that you can get. Oh, and I also have an amazingly popular book out. It's called Forget Me Not. That's available on Amazon. And all of these links are available for you in the description down below in this video. Most commonly, Alzheimer's disease and other dementias affect older people. The average age is 85. In fact, if you make it to 85, you are 50% likely to have Alzheimer's or another dementia. Early onset is when a person is diagnosed under the age of 65. Early signs of Alzheimer's and other dementias often go unrecognized in younger people. Doctors don't even consider dementia as a diagnosis because of the person's age. If the person is under age 65, the doctor is more likely to steer towards a diagnosis of anxiety, depression, and mental illnesses. Obtaining the correct diagnosis can be a long and drawn-out process and be very distressing for both the younger patient and their families. In most cases, these younger patients are prescribed multiple drugs for personality disorders and anxiety with no relief. This can go on for decades. The beginning signs of early onset Alzheimer's can include behavioral and mood changes, and these symptoms are often overlooked and frequently misdiagnosed, again, as depression, anxiety, or other mental illnesses. This means that those suffering from early onset may go without a diagnosis for many years until the disease advances and then is successfully diagnosed. We need to clarify here, as with late onset dementia, or LOD, the most common is Alzheimer's disease. Same for EOD, or early onset. But remember, dementia is a symptom of a disease. Alzheimer's is a disease. Dementia is a symptom. So, just like LOD, or late onset dementia, early onset can be many diseases such as Alzheimer's disease, frontotemporal or FTD, vascular or Korsakoff, which is alcohol-induced dementia. So the most common late onset dementia is Alzheimer's, about 60 to 80%. Well, early onset, it's only about 1/3 of is Alzheimer's. The other 2/3 are vascular, Korsakoff, frontotemporal, and they're all treated differently and also have different symptoms, which we'll go over. It's also not uncommon to be told that your symptoms might be related to stress, menopause, or depression. Early onset Alzheimer's progresses faster than late, or when the person is later in life. Alzheimer's average lifespan is 9 years, where younger onset, the average lifespan is 4 to 8 years after diagnosis. The most common warning signs for Alzheimer's disease is memory impairment that can make an impact or disrupts your daily life. And for the early onset person, this could mean a lot of changes with their work and family life. Trying to perform duties at work can become extremely challenging. They may end up losing their job due to lack of focus, unable to multitask, or it may require much longer time to get the job done. Another warning sign of Alzheimer's disease is poor judgment, leading to bad decisions. Early onset Alzheimer's, like late onset Alzheimer's, the person will have trouble with dates and organizing a calendar, miss appointments. They may get lost in familiar places. Other warning signs include losing things or misplacing things and then finding them in very strange places. They might have mood and personality changes due partly to fear and anxiety that something is wrong. And they can also have increased aggression towards others. Early onset Alzheimer's can begin as early as the age of 30. As I mentioned before, it can take quite some time for a younger person to be diagnosed with dementia. Therefore, by the time they are diagnosed, they may be in the middle stages already. If it's the middle stages of Alzheimer's disease, the symptoms include even more increased confusion or memory loss. By now, they are probably withdrawing from social activities. They may be unable to work any longer. This person could be having a lot more difficulty with language, reading, and writing. They may start having problems with simple tasks that require multi-steps, such as getting dressed or bathing. At this stage, they may begin having inappropriate behaviors and emotional outbursts. Every person with Alzheimer's or another dementia will go through these symptoms differently. They may experience some symptoms, and others may not experience some of them at all. Lewy body dementia is one of the hardest and most misdiagnosed of all dementias, because Lewy body dementia's earliest symptoms usually involve vivid and often violent hallucinations. A misdiagnosis of schizophrenia and other mental illness is very common. Drugs for these disorders are the absolute worst thing that you can give to a person with Lewy body dementia. Another early warning sign of Lewy body dementia is sleep disorders. These two symptoms alone make it extremely difficult for family members providing care, especially for younger patients. Other symptoms of Lewy body dementia are fluctuations in alertness and attention. The person can actually look almost like they're detached and in a trance for several minutes or even days. They might have rigidity similar to Parkinson's. If you're working with a person who has any types of hallucinations or delusions, please make sure you watch my other videos on these topics. It will really, really help you in your caregiving. And you must learn how to deal with these very difficult situations, because many of us automatically do the wrong thing and everything ends up backfiring. So please watch those videos. They're so important. You can do it. Early onset vascular dementia is the second most common after Alzheimer's disease. It accounts for about 20%, or about 1 in every 5 cases. Vascular dementia occurs when the blood vessels are damaged to the brain and the blood flow to a particular area of the brain stops, resulting in cell death and brain damage. These are commonly caused by stroke or mini strokes, head trauma, congestive heart failure, and arterial sclerosis. The effects of vascular dementia depend on where in the brain the damage has occurred. Memory loss may or may not be a symptom of vascular dementia, and the conditions on thinking skills depend a lot on the severity of the blood vessel damage and what part of the brain has been affected. If the stroke or lack of blood flow to the area of the brain plays a key role in storing and retrieving information is damaged, this can cause memory loss that is very similar to Alzheimer's disease. Again, accounting for yet another misdiagnosis. Most common symptoms would include confusion, disorientation, trouble speaking or understanding speech, poor balance, and numbness or paralysis on one side of the face or the body. If the vascular dementia is caused by mini strokes, then the symptoms can be more of a gradual, progressive thinking changes, problems with planning and judgment. These symptoms can come on more gradually. Declining ability to pay attention, finding it difficult to find the right words. The most common risk factors for vascular dementia can include head trauma and a brain tumor and anything that will affect the blood vessels in the body, such as smoking, congestive heart failure, high cholesterol, high blood sugar or diabetes, eating an unhealthy diet, lack of exercise, being overweight, and heavy alcohol consumption. Vascular dementia has many of the same warning signs and risk factors as heart disease. Let's talk about FTD, or frontotemporal dementia. Typically, FTD diagnosed between the age of 45 and 65. However, with early onset, the average diagnosis is age 25. About 12% of younger people diagnosed with dementia is FTD. 40% of those have a family history of frontotemporal dementia. FTD is when the neurons located in the temporal and the frontal lobes are affected. Early onset symptoms for FTD are the same as later in life FTD and include behavioral changes, verbal aggression, lack of empathy, mood changes, social withdrawal, loss of sexual inhibition, lack of self-awareness, and lack of understanding of inappropriate behaviors. Rates of early onset FTD are fairly high, with 13% being diagnosed under the age of 50. And again, in almost all cases, this is misdiagnosed as a mental illness or depression or anxiety. FTD is caused by a buildup of abnormal proteins. Those affected most likely will experience changes in mood and personality. They very, very often have problems with sexual behavior. Early onset alcohol-related dementia, or Korsakoff, can cause both long and short-term physical and mental health damage. If caught early, and if the person is willing to abstain from drinking, this dementia might be reversible. Korsakoff early onset is typically diagnosed between the ages of 40 and 50. Younger drinkers are more susceptible to brain damage that contributes to dementia later in life. In other words, the cognitive consequences that we see later in life are actually caused by excessive alcohol consumption earlier in life. Korsakoff dementia, or alcohol-related dementia, can cause permanent brain damage. The person suffering from Korsakoff dementia will have problems learning new things. They can have gaps in their memory and many visual changes. Also problems making decisions, slowed motor functions, and feeling very disconnected to others. Korsakoff syndrome is due to the non-absorption of the body of enough thiamine or vitamin B1, which occurs when a person drinks excessive amounts of alcohol. Look for my video on Korsakoff syndrome dementia. There is nothing harder than an early diagnosis of dementia. Get educated, and together we can.